Invigor Book and Buy ends November 14th. Run, don't walk to invigorbookandbuy.ca to find out how to get $30 off per bag. Terms and conditions apply.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 at Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Wednesday midweek edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your work day. And also, hey, big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast as well. Hope you had yourself a great Remembrance Day here in Canada. Maybe you attended a service. Maybe you had a moment of silence. Whatever it was, I hope you had yourselves a great day and really reflected on some of the people that have made huge, massive sacrifices for us to have the lives we do in the country right now. So yeah, very cool. I watched some of the services on TV. It was really fantastic. Okay, today on the show we're going to cover some ground. We're going to have a live call in from Rob Saik with at AGvisorPro. And he is in Germany at Agritechnica. He's on the floor. He's in the Canadian Pavilion. He is roaming around. Who knows what kind of chaos we're going to get into with Rob here on today's program. We're also today going to hear from Neil Townsend of GrainFox. We're going to talk about the markets with him. We also, we're going to talk to Dr. Andreas Reyes, Gaige, and Loren Davis from Acadian Plant Health. We're gonna talk with them about kind of a fun little segment, I think, called This or That when it comes to biostimulants. Do I do this or do I do that? And I think they have some opinions that don't necessarily are the same. So we'll see what both gentlemen have to say. And we've got some time today for your feedback, because many of you either emailed or accessed the RealAg text line last week and sending me your thoughts, and those people are all getting hats, and so I'm going to read some of their messages on the air. If you have any feedback on today's program, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line or text it 855-776-6147. Tomorrow, I'm going to be speaking in Medicine Hat. Looking forward to that. Friday, I'm in Ottawa at the Scaling Up Conference. We're talking about bioenergy and biofuels, and agriculture is a small piece of that conversation, but I'm looking forward to doing that. Going to be speaking there. And then Saturday, super fun, I'm back in Lethbridge, back in the hometown, and going to be speaking at the Alberta Land Producers, AGM, and doing a producer panel. We're going to talk about all the issues of the day, and I'm really going to dig in on what's going on in the lamb industry in Alberta. So looking forward to that as well. So busy week of speeches indeed here at the back end of this midpoint of November. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to dig in with Neil Townsend of GrainFox and talk markets right after this.
Smith. Joining me now, Clint Yerke, Regional Technical Services Manager with BASF. Today's topic is clubbers. Using these resistant hybrids, how can we keep them effective as long as possible?
Anything that we can do to reduce the spore load, so resistance, rotations, patch management, that's going to be a great tool when the disease is already established in your field. But you also want to prevent it from arriving in the field, and so that's where sanitation and minimum till, zero till operations are essential for managing the disease. We have 12 or so different hybrids that are available that range in different types of maturity, different disease like packages, but they all do possess great pod shatter, pod drop resistance, lodging, harvestability, ease, and couple that with high-end yields. So you get that full package of those Invigor genetics that's going to give you a much better opportunity for improved profitability at the end of the season.
If you want to find out more about the Invigor hybrid canola lineup, go to invigorresults.ca. I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney@realagriculture.com and you can book myself or any other RealAg personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture. And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Let's dig in on the markets. But first, I want to tell you about nutrient management, latest weather. We talk about markets and ag trends here on the show. It's not the only place. How about you also check out The Dirt? It's an economics podcast. It's your place for farm smart topics to boost your profitability. The Dirt, Season 4, hosted by Mike Howell, is available now at nutrient-economics.com. Let's talk markets. Bring in right now Neil Townsend of GrainFox, based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. How are we doing today, Neil?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Okay, we're going to talk about, I think we're going to focus a little bit on oil seeds here, mainly on soybeans and on canola. I guess what kind of impact off the hop here, Neil, is China playing in this market? Where we've got this deal with, or some sort of agreement between the U.S. and China on soybeans over the next 3 years. Canada's still trying to figure out a way back into that market. Is there demand there from China, or are they just out of the market, period?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the $64,000 question. Like when I look at the 25-26 marketing year, and people say to me, like, oh, what do you want to know about if you could go forward into the future? And what I'd want to know is just how many million tons of canola, and we're talking about canola right here, is China going to import in the 25-26 marketing year? And to me, it's a whole volume issue, whether they get it from Australia or Canada, or, I mean, there aren't too many other choices than that, maybe a little bit smattering from Russia or Ukraine. I mean, the bottom line is, are they going to increase, decrease, or stay the same with imports? Now, if they stay the same with imports, like relative to last year, well, they got to get it from someone. So every ton they take from Australia, Canada would have access to another market to ship that to. Now, I think probably one grouping that might have less import demand year over year would be the European Union, because they had a little bit of a bigger crop. So that would be one tangible thing that would decrease the pool, but that's probably already built into the market. But the big question is, like, where will China be? So far, if we look at just visible purchases from China, I mean, they are not where they were last year, but, it can come in one fell swoop. They can buy quite a bit. For all the noise about them buying from Australia, there's only 3 known cargoes, that they've bought from Australia. They're loading one right now. It's due to ship soon. This is the first time they've bought in, 5 years from Australia. So it is a meaningful thing. And it's not like a great development for Canada. But again, if Australia is going to concentrate on the China market, then Canada should be able to backfill lots of markets that Australia traditionally has been servicing over the last years. Broadening it out a little bit to the soybeans, I think on the soybeans front, I haven't heard too many people say that, the overall Chinese demand has been lacking. It's just that they've shifted, obviously, their demand to Argentina is probably the incremental one. That raw beans from Argentina was not a common thing, but, now they're going to be taking a lot of raw beans from Argentina. But, over the last 10 years, I mean, the big story has been a shift from, U.S. beans to Brazilian beans, and that's going to continue. And then we'll just have to see if the overall number is, 97 million, 101 million, or whatever. And obviously, the more the better, I guess, for grains and oilseeds markets, or the oilseeds markets. But I mean, it's going to be impossible to tell November 12th exactly, whether we're going to have more or less beans bought from China. And, what we will be able to say with pretty definitive position is that the U.S. will not sell as many beans to China in 25-26 as they did in 24-25. And, that's something that is going to weigh on the markets.
Yeah, I'm finding in both Canada and the U.S., we're talking about Chinese demand as if China was at one time some sort of like loyal, consistent, stable sort of customer where we knew every year they were buying X amount of product. And they're in and they're out and the volumes fluctuate, but they're definitely not consistent. But we talk about them like they really are. And I think it's creating confusion about what China actually is when we think about the export market.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. I mean, I think, outside of soybeans, which soybeans has, since 2000, we saw very steady growth of their purchasing of soybeans up to, and over 100 million tons. And largely in the first sort of 15 years, that was mostly from the United States. And over the last 6 or 7 years, it's sort of diversified a bit, 50-50 from the US and Brazil. And now they've been buying products from Argentina. But other than that, and even in that area, I mean, you wouldn't call them 100% consistent. There's been some variances. And with things like wheat and corn and other crops and canola, huge amounts of variance. And on the canola front, I mean, we just got to call a spade a spade. Like, they've been a difficult partner for Canada. I mean, this is at least the third time where we've had, significant obstacles to even get volume in there. And on other years, there's been sort of, big demand and then less demand and then big demand, then less demand. So, there are market fluctuations with them. It's not just a steady growth story. And, if you're saying to me, how much are they going to import from Canada 5 years from now in 2030, 31? I mean, I would really say the range of guesses on that, and I call them guesses, would be pretty wide, like anywhere from, 0 to 5 million tons. And that kind of lack of consistency on the export side, where we really don't know what volume we're going to be dealing with in any given year, I mean, it's a difficult thing. And I think even the crushers, despite them building up and wanting access to all the supply, even the crushers, I think if you gave them an honest pill, would say, like, that's not a very good situation, because it also makes it difficult for the farmers long term to really set aside and dedicate the acreage to canola that's going to be needed to support, say, 15 or 16 million tons of crush capacity, right? Because if they don't have that export outlet when they grow a 23 or 24 million ton crop, I mean, nobody wants to carry over 2 or 3 or 4 million tons of canola, like, on the farm, right? I mean, yeah, sure, we'll carry over 1 million, 1.5 million on the farm, but it's that extra 2.5 or 3 million tons that really make farmers pause and seek out different things that they maybe grow. And I mean, that's the problem with China. And I'd say you can go down a lot of different crops for them and say, where is the consistency for that? I mean, spring wheat, fairly good, but I mean, again, it can fluctuate quite a bit, and they make such a difference in the market when they do come in and buy sort of that incremental 500 or 700,000 tons. But
okay, so knowing that, then is that why the U.S. is trying to create these, like, production contracts where, hey, the minimum they're going to purchase is 25 million metric tons in the 26-27 year? Is that why they're going that route? And should Canada follow, or is Canada on the right path where, hey, just try to lower the market resistance and the non-tariff trade barriers, and the product's going to flow regardless if they need it?
Well, I would pick the latter. Like certainly, I just think when you think in theory as a primary producer, or even like a line company, like the industry as a whole, you want to be shipping to consistent, steady growth demand. And I think that if it's done through an apparatus like, a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal, that just means you're back at the table renegotiating again. And also, it doesn't get to the root of the issue. Is like, is there a legitimate, steady demand there that's showing some signs of growth? Like, you don't want to really be focusing on a declining market. And that would be one, and we've talked about it before, so we're not going to go into it here. But I'd say, like, one of the big question marks about China is, like, what is the future of China? Is it going to be a growth market or a declining market? And I would be in the school that says, like, just looking at their demographics and their aging and all of that kind of thing, you'd say that's probably going to be a declining market unless they become a massive re-exporter. And they are a re-exporter on a lot of agricultural products or processed products, so that might be their role. But again, that wouldn't be strongly desirable for our crush industry either if they became like, we ship them 6 million tons only to face competition of, the fracked 6 million tons out in the world marketplace. That's not desirable either. So, I mean, I think that longer term, it would be nice to have China as a consistent, dependable, steady, predictable customer, even if the market isn't growing. But if it's going to be like this, where it's difficult to deal with them, it's tap on, tap off, hostile sort of relationship. I mean, I don't think that's very favorable. Now, I will mention, yesterday there was a story in the South China Post where, and it was very China-led, where China said a lot of nice things about Canada, encouraged us to come back to the table, encouraged us to make longer term deals and stuff like this. Like, in no way, shape, and form am I insinuating that in 25, 26 or 26, 27 or 27, 28, I don't want China to be our customer. We need China to be our customer. So let's get back to the table. Let's make a deal here. Let's try to smooth it out. I mean, if we could make a long deal, like a 10-year agreement about access to markets and stuff like that, that'd be even better. But at a minimum, let's try to solve the issue this year, and let's ship 2 million tons of canola to China in 25, 26. That would be beneficial.
Okay, so when we look at the January future for canola and on a 1-year chart, we're up 2.33% from a pricing perspective. It does again, it's another example though where it's actually the input side of the equation, the cost side of the equation in agriculture that's creating a lot of the margin concern. We'd like prices to be higher and maybe more reflective of where the costs are, but it's really the costs that are really, really attacking farmers' ability to make a profit right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the story of the economy writ large, is that the big issue on everybody, including farmers, is it's on the cost side, right? So, when you look at the profit function, it's always like total costs, total revenues minus total costs. And, even with the yields that we had this year on some crops, if you just multiply it by even like a slightly lower farm gate price, but the yield would maybe give you a higher overall revenue, but it's the costs that are really, really pinching people. And I mean, they're pinching the consumer, they're pinching the primary producer. I mean, I'm sure that if we talk to the line companies, they would say their costs are up and that, they're struggling. And, so I think that's one issue. And I mean, I think, historically speaking, when you talk about sort of economics, and I mean, we always talk about things in a vacuum or the free market and all this. But I think one thing that's very clear is that costs are sticky to come down. You know what I mean? So once you establish a new top price for a combine or for fertilizer or something like that, it might come down, but a lot of times it comes down as a special, where the list price stays the same, but people have to bargain for a better deal, right? Whereas with the commodity prices, I mean, the commodity prices trade and open, now on computers, but I mean, that's the price, right? And it gets to find its right price. But, I think farmers everywhere, are struggling with costs right now. And we're not at the stage where we've driven anybody aggressively out of business, because nobody's identified themselves as the high cost producer yet. But if this continues for many more years, we're going to have to get to that situation.
Neil, really appreciate you joining us here today on RealAg Radio. All the best to you. If somebody wants more information on GrainFox, where do they go?
They can just go to grainfox.ca, and there's lots of information. I'm pretty sure they can sign up for a trial there. They can check out our AI. They can check out a bunch of other different things there. And yeah, just go to grainfox.ca. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. We'll be back with more of RealAg Radio. I think coming up next, we've got Acadian Plant Health. We're doing a this or that segment. And we've also got Rob Saik from the floor of Agritechnica. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
Getting your pulses off to a strong start just got easier. Tag Team Bionic from FMC is the all-in-one granular inoculant that's simple to handle and easy to apply at seeding. With improved flow and less dust, it runs clean through your equipment and delivers consistent results in the field. Powered by 4 biological actives plus LCO promoter technology, it kickstarts nodulation and nutrient uptake, even in cool soils. Ask your retailer about Tag Team Bionic today.
RealAg Radio is Canada's only daily radio show focused on agriculture. Get expert advice on Agronomic Monday. Tuesdays and Wednesdays will cover a broad range of issues. Thursday we'll hear from farmers across the country on the Farmer Rapid Fire. And we'll wrap things up Fridays with the RealAg Issues panel with Kelvin Hepner and Lindsay Smith. Join us Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. And don't forget about the replay at 7 in the morning on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Let's have some fun here with Acadian Plant Health. We're going to do some this or that. We'll get into the style of this in a second. But first, let's bring in our guests. Up first, we have Andreas Reyes Gaige, who is the Regional Technical Manager for North America for Acadian Plant Health. How are we doing today, Andreas?
Doing really well today, Shaun. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Also responsible for business development in Canada, it is Loren Davis. Loren, great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again, Shaun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, Loren, let's get our audience up to speed here. We got a bunch of different topics we're going to roll through and get both your perspectives on. But what is Acadian Plant Health and what does the company do?
So Acadian Plant Health is in the biostimulant business. So we harvest seaweed out of the Atlantic Ocean. We're a Canadian company, and we create a product that farmers can apply, use it either as a seed treatment or foliar on their crops to help deal with crop stresses, abiotic stress, and help that plant be healthier.
Great stuff. Okay, so knowing that, then we're going to cover a bunch of different topics that are in the biostimulant space here and trying to bring that back to some of the questions the farmers may have. So here's the first question, and we'll get each of you a chance to answer. Fun little game here that we're playing. First question, early season application or mid-season application? Andreas, let's start with you.
Yes, Shaun, absolutely. So I really like the early season application better. The reason for that is because you get your crop to a strong start because it's going to help with root development. That root development is going to be very important for nutrient uptake, water uptake, and then that's going to lead to having a better and healthier crop.
Okay, Loren?
Well, it's hard to argue with Andre's comment because root development's important. But if I purely had to focus on abiotic stress, which biostimulants can help on, I would choose that mid-season. I recently saw a LinkedIn post from my friend at BSF, Brent Collins, that he talked about invigors, and they reached that milestone of 100 bushels an acre. And I think the crops that we grow have a huge genetic potential, and the challenge is how do we manage that abiotic stress to give that crop the best opportunity to maximize the yield potential.
So it's kind of and I guess sort of feeds into the next question is, it doesn't have to be just one application. It could be single application, but it also could be multiple, right, Andreas?
Absolutely, Shaun. So multiple applications usually are going to result more advantageous. Loren was just talking about that InVigor new bushel breaking record in Canada, and that is absolutely true. And we can reach that using Acadian's biostimulant. With multiple applications, what we are going to be obtaining is that abiotic stress mitigation later in the season, which usually is what reduces the potential of productivity in crops. So it's known that abiotic stress can reduce the potential for productivity 7 to 10 times more compared to diseases or pests. So being able to bring a tolerance to that is fantastic, and that's what Acadian can bring to the table.
Okay, Loren, what do you think?
This is where Andre's been able to help me out being new to Acadian. He's gone through the trials with me, and, it's clear that the data that he's shown me that more than one application, so often, 2 applications, especially when we're talking about broadacre crops, gives the maximum benefit to the crop.
Yeah. Let's just stop for a second and back up. Andreas, when we're talking about biostimulants here, what are we trying to do? What is for some people that some farmers have been testing and using and having success with, and some farmers may be, wait a minute, I've heard about this. What exactly is it? Define it for us.
So a biostimulant is going to be a product that's going to have an impact on the metabolism of the plant, making it produce its own hormones or making it increase production of different genes, which is going to have an impact on how that crop is going to perform. So that's in my head the definition of a biostimulant.
So, Loren, I guess when we think about the application, we've decided that multiple is fine. It can have a benefit early or mid-season. But from an application standpoint, are we talking a tank mix with other crop protection products, or is this another pass I'm having to make?
Yeah, I think we need to, growers need to be efficient. We're not going to create another pass, and really what we want to do is work with where the farmer's already in the field. So at the herbicide timing, at the fungicide timing, or at the seeding timing, we really need to make sure that our products, go in the tank and mix well at those timings to help that farmer be the most efficient and effective with their time.
Is that how you see it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Loren. Sorry.
Well, I was also going to say, it does, outside of crop protection products, biostimulants or the seaweed extract can also be used with nutrients. And so that nutrient timing is also a really nice timing because the seaweed does have a chelator that helps improve that nutrient uptake.
Interesting. Is that how you see it too, Andres?
Absolutely. So something that I always remember is that growing up, my parents would tell me that if you do not play well with others, others won't want to play with you. And that's the same. The same is true for agriculture. So when you get only one pass where you can mix multiple ag products, you are going to see an advantage. That grower is going to see an advantage because it's going to save them on time, labor, and costs. So that's huge.
Great. So when we're talking about biostimulants, are we talking about broadacre crops like corn and beans, canola, pulses, or is this a better fit when it comes to something like horticulture, whether that's potatoes or maybe it's in orchards and things like that? Is one better over the other, Andres?
So that's I call in alphabet research. My research expands from A to C, from almonds to zucchini. Acadian is known for its great results in horticultural crops, though, from managing the ability for the crop to deal with different stresses like heat and drought to providing the farmer with better yields and better shelf life at the end of the season. So I've seen many significant positive results in most horticultural and broadacre crops across Canada and the US.
Now, Loren, your experience is in those broadacre crops. So do you see there being a fit for biostimulants when we talk about some of those crops like wheat, canola, and pulses?
Yeah, exactly, Shaun. That's, I think our market is, we're almost mature. We're very well established in those horticulture crops, across that smile of the US and in BC, Ontario, and Canada. Those are almost mature. They're biostimulants and seaweed extracts are used widely. And so my interest is to help support growing the use of biostimulants in the crops across the prairies. And so making sure that we got the research in place to help farmers make those decisions and show them how it can help as another tool growing a profitable crop.
So if we look at horticulture or those broadacre crops, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to push, root development and having the bigger, the biggest, bulkiest, most robust root package? Or is this more about increasing nitrogen use efficiency, for example? I guess, Andreas, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question, Shaun. So I think that they both go hand in hand because root development, especially when you get that small absorbative roots growing, it's going to help you with nutrient use efficiency and water uptake. So when you get that bigger root, you're also going to get better nutrient use efficiency and uptake. And like I said, they go hand in hand together. You're going to get both benefits, really.
Okay. Loren, what do you think?
Well, the seaweed extract, it's not going to boost the yield higher than what the crop's natural potential is. But what it can do is it can help combat some of those abiotic stresses, help, better root development so that crop's able to reach its full potential or a better chance of it reaching its full potential.
So we're trying to help it, Loren, push through some of the stresses that it's dealing with then?
Yeah. So when it comes to stress mitigation, you're not going to fool a plant for its entire growing cycle of, is that 90 days or 100 days? But, if you apply prior to a stress, you can help that plant, mitigate that stress for a short period of time. Yeah.
It's a really interesting area of crop production. And I just feel like, what we knew 3 years ago is not what we know today. And just think about where we're going to be with some of the knowledge and some of the use and product development into the future is pretty exciting. So, last question I have for both of you is, what's the one piece of advice that you give to the Real Agriculture audience that is interested in trying out a biostimulant? Andreas, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. So my advice to anybody who wants to try a biostimulant is to first find a company that has conducted thorough research in that one product that they are interested in trying. That's number one. You need to make sure that the data backs up the product that you want to test. And secondly, it's important to choose a product that makes sense to your operations. You need to think about the crop that you're going to be growing. What is the need that you have for applying that product? What are the value propositions that make sense to your operations? It is also very important to remember that not all biostimulant products are the same and not all of them are going to be doing the same thing. So you need to choose carefully about exactly what you want from this product.
Yeah. Loren, what would your advice be?
I think biostimulants, they're a great fit. They do have an opportunity in broadacre crops. They're not a silver bullet. They're not going to replace your fertilizer or your fungicide or your herbicides. But they can be integrated to be a nice addition. As we're trying to get more out of our soils and we're trying to get more out of our crops, we're looking to different ways to manage our crops. And I think biostimulants can be a nice tool in the toolbox and complement what we've traditionally been doing, to help get the most out of the plants and help them to produce the most that we possibly can.
Well, and a good opportunity to do some side-by-side, some strip trialing with some of the precision ag tools that are out there to measure how that, you can look at obviously root development, obviously leaf size or color, and then and then also obviously the ultimate evaluator, which is yield and quality at the end of the day. And it's a good opportunity for growers to be doing that kind of stuff, isn't it, Loren?
Yeah, exactly. And that's coming from a science background for the last number of years, I definitely rely on that, and I think that's important to help farmers make decisions.
Great stuff. Well, really appreciate both of you joining us here today. Obviously, we got Loren Davis and Andreas Reyes Gaige, both from Acadian Plant Health. If you want to find out more about Acadian Plant Health, you can go to acadianplanthealth-na.com. Guys, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shaun.
Thanks for having us, Shaun. Great questions.
We'll be back on RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 right after this.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on SiriusXM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Hey, have you got your DeKalb seed booked? Book early and take advantage of savings with the DeKalb Rewards program. Visit DeKalbRewards.ca for more details. Well, this week in Hanover, Germany, it is Agritechnica. And let's check in with one of the people that we know that is on the ground there in Germany, taking in all the booths, the festivities, and all the information is Rob Saik, who is the CEO of AGvisorPro. Hey, Rob, how are we doing?
Hey, doing great, Shaun. It is the 11th here. Wearing the poppy. A lot of Canadians are honoring Remembrance Day here at Agritechnica in the Canada Pavilion. We're actually here showcasing our AI product, VisorPro.
Nice. And how have the crowds been?
Yeah, it's been, this is Tuesday, I guess. You know that they have a VIP day that was yesterday, and then the big crowds will actually start tomorrow. We've had a really good run so far. I don't have to tell you this, but it is daunting. I've got a couple people here for the first time, and they're like, holy crap, this is overwhelming.
Yeah, I think a lot of Canadians go there and they think like it's crop production show or Agritrade. Nothing against those shows. This is just massively bigger. So you need to commit more than
all of those shows in one or two pavilions here, So that's the way it goes. Jim Palliser from Fort of Prairie just showed up in my booth here, and nice. I guess Marcel Van Staveren from Saskatchewan's hanging around. So the people you run into when you don't have a gun.
Good stuff. So what are some of the things that have caught your eye, Rob?
Well, we're in the Canadian Pavilion, so I'm going to walk around and talk to you. So this is the pavilion put together by Saskatchewan Trade and Export Program. A couple of things that have really caught my eye. One of the things that's really caught a lot of people's attention is something called Tractor Zoom. It's from China, and it's electric over diesel. They've got equipment here that can kick in like over 1,000 horsepower. It's like 600 horsepower under diesel, and they hit this the electric overdrive, and it just puts so much power. And they're running like for the combine. They're running they can run different parts of the equipment with electric or diesel. It's really fun. It's getting a lot of attention, so it's pretty cool.
Wow. So electric diesel. Okay.
Yeah. Here's the guys from These are the guys from Thunderstruck from Manitoba. They're here talking their concave. You got Agtron, you got Borgo Tillage Tools. I want to walk you over to one of the things that's really got a lot of attention from farmers and stuff. You remember that I was working with Norbert Bourgeot on the DOT project. You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the robotics project. Well, this is the next level right here. So this is the Nexat. This is the Nexat autonomous robot. They're touting this as the largest combine in the world, most horsepower, and they're talking about. Well, I'll just show you. So it's really quite something.
That's where the cab comes out in front of the header, like on almost like a boom, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. So this is what you're staring at here is the header up in the sky here right now, and over there, I'm going to take you to it. Here's the so with the robotics, one of the problems is actually transporting the robot between fields. So what Nexat has done is they put a tab on the robot. So they've got on display, they've got the harvest piece of it, and over here they have the seeding right over here. This is the seeding side of the equation, and you can see the size of the tires. So this is all controlled traffic farming. So all of the pieces of equipment that would clip into the Nexat would run on the same parallel path. So all the wheels would follow the same trajectory, the same traffic. Yep.
One of the things that I've always found going to Agritechnica, Rob, is the thirst that farmers from around the world, the hunger they have for Canadian innovation when it comes to how to, whether it's how to till soil, put seed in the ground. They know it's well built, it's innovative, and they want to know about it.
Yeah, the couple things you just said there, like here's Vatterstad. So you remember that's legacy seed hawk technology. And I'm just going to wander probably around the corner here to Borgo Tillage Tools are right here. But Shaun, You've been here before. I don't know how many ways and how many companies can manufacture a tillage plow. Like, honest to God, there are so many companies that are advocating excessive tillage, and then the number of companies selling deep rippers to rip up the compaction caused by that tillage tool is unreal. The number of companies. So
does it make you itchy a little bit? All that tillage, like being around that tillage equipment, do you get itchy a little bit?
It kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. You know, that's one thing about Canada is that next to Argentina, I think, oh shit, look at this. This is Bart Shoot. So Bart is actually working with the Nexat, right, Bart?
Right, yeah.
This is Shaun Haney. We're live on Real Agriculture right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, hey, hey, congratulations. What's been kind of the feedback on that Nexat robot?
So he's asking what the feedback has been.
From me or from the public? I'm not really in the booth. I'm just here as a visitor. But
you've been playing with it on the farm.
We had it all fall in the farm out.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So what do you think?
Well, it's fairly impressive. There's certainly some potential there. I'd say it still needs some refining, but it's very big.
It captured your imagination.
Oh, yeah. It's very big. It's got tons of capacity.
So, you know, tomorrow at the Canadian booth here at the Canada Pavilion from 4 to 6, we're sponsoring Beers and Beers.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're around, I'll buy you a beer.
Should be. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll continue on here.
Yeah.
So I want to show you one of the booths here. This is giving me kind of the giggles. It's right here.
Oh, look at that.
Farmers are ruthless. I thought that was really cool. I'm actually going around the booths here, and I'm collecting slogans of agricultural companies. So I'm going to put together a collage of slogans and let the farmers vote on which is the best slogan. This is part of the Canada booth. So you've got us with AGvisorPro. You got Adaptive Agriculture, Freeform Plastic. Shaun Haney from Real Agriculture right now. So,
nice. Look at the.
This is the Step guys, and then you got Bordeaux over here, and in this particular pavilion, some of the real big players are Kuhn, KUHN, and Horse manufacturing. They just Michael Horse has just built a giant company in one lifetime. It's pretty amazing.
That sprayer they have is very impressive.
The AgriFact sprayer I looked at today was really something. I went over to the digital booth where they have a lot of robotics, Shaun, and I got about 150 feet, and I ran into a bunch of people I know. But a lot of robotic technology here. The See and Spray is advancing in terms of people using See and Spray. A lot of sensor technology. I see more and more soil probes and you know, I was talking to Gottfried Pessel Instrumentation, and Gottfried said he's trying to shrink his catalog from 25 pages down to 10 pages because he says that the technology is all converging. So more and more technology is coming together inside of one device. Instead of having 2 or 3 or 4 devices, they're combining so much technology in one device. So I found that interesting too.
Yeah, you know, if farmers want simplicity, right? They don't want to have to go to, you know this better than anybody, Rob, as someone that's been in the software and precision ag game for a while. They want simplicity, ease of use. You know, it's just as important as, you know, what is the ROI of the use of that technology? Even if it gives an ROI, if it's impossible to use, it's complicated, it's cumbersome, I don't want it.
And generally, if it gets complicated, they're going to turn it off and go seed the crop without it. So this is what do we got? We got Right Way here. We got Honeybee.
Nice.
And then right at the end here, we got company Agrokalina, the Ukrainian company. So I went over there, and you know my heritage is Ukrainian. So I went over there and made instant friends. They gave me a bottle of wine from Georgia, so that was really cool. As I'm walking down over this, I got to introduce you to a friend of mine here that I met at the Vanderstad booth. I'll share that with you in a second. So hit me with your next question.
Well, I was just going to say every Agritechnica has a bit of a theme. Like some years, there's been autonomy. Then there was everything was about electricity. It sounds like this year is about kind of improvement on some of the technologies we've been talking about for a few years.
I think it's starting to talk about what we were just discussing, which is trying to create more simplicity around the touch. I think, and this we're working on right now, we're trying to figure out how to leverage AI to make it easier for, in our case, equipment dealerships to get an answer fast and make it accurate and drop your research time from 30 or 45 minutes down to 30 or 45 seconds. So I think we're starting to see that come through as a pretty common. Oh, look at this. This is my friend Morris. Morris
the Moose. I've had my picture beside that Morris the Moose before.
Yeah. So, I feel right at home.
Yeah. Rob, what's been, as you're talking to farmers from around the world that have been walking around, I'm sure you've run into lots of Canadians and Europeans, people from Asia. What's the mood? Because, we've seen a kind of a slowdown in the equipment sector, and this is a pretty heavy equipment show. So
it's a really heavy equipment show, yeah.
Yeah. So what's been kind of the feeling from as your growers you're talking to?
Well, I was in the Agri-Trade. I saw you in Agri-Trade last week, right? And the Agri-Trade show, I got to say that I probably sensed more apprehension amongst the equipment people than I did amongst the farmers. I mean, a lot of guys, you know that in Central Alberta, anyways, hit some pretty good notches on the totem pole this last year. So far, it's really too early for me to comment on the attitude of the farmers. Like I said, just ran into Bart Jim Pallister was just here because I've been focused more so on meeting with the OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, and the dealers. So that's kind of where I've been focused right now.
And for what you're doing with your tool, AGvisorPro, has it been a successful week so far? I know we're just a couple days in here, but are you liking the feedback you're getting?
Yeah, no, it's been really good so far. We've been meeting, like I said, with dealerships and with OEM manufacturers who are already operating with VisorPro. We launched VisorPro in 2023, so we're already operating in Australia, the United States, and Canada. I think we've got our first quote in UK right now. We're really focusing in on the pain of the equipment sector, which is on the service side. When a dealership gets called, very often the response is from the service guys, I'll be back in 30 minutes. And when that turns into a day, farmers get pretty peeved off. So we're trying to address that. We're trying to say, I got to show you this. This is kind of cool. So these are the people that are exhibiting here at the Canada booth. But look at this. This is obviously, these are
look at that group.
Young people. You know who this is, Shaun? This is the University of Saskatchewan.
Oh, the U of S, the people from the University of Saskatchewan, the U of S are on site. Oh, there you go.
Loren's working with us at our booth right now. So these students are from the University of Saskatchewan, and many of the companies are using these students in their booths this year. So for Loren, this was like an apprenticeship for her.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Well, you make sure you don't lead those U of S students astray with some of those German beers and some of the schnitzel there, Rob.
Well, speaking of beers, the Canada Pavilion or Steph is hosting an event tonight. So we're just getting that all teed up. And tomorrow, VisorPro is hosting Deers and Beers. So people are at Agritechnica, Canadians listening, or any of your listeners, between 4 and 6 p.m. at the Canada booth, we're hosting Deers and Beers.
Great stuff. Well, hey Rob, this has been an awesome walk around. It's great to see you're having a great time, and Agritechnica is truly a success again here in 2025. Really appreciate it. Good luck to VisorPro there.
Yeah, well, we'll catch you on the road, Shaun, like we talked about. We got some plans for this winter, you and me, so we'll catch you on the road, okay?
Absolutely. That is Rob Saik. He is CEO of VisorPro and AgvisorPro. Really appreciate him joining us there from the floor at the Canadian Pavilion at Agritechnica. We'll be back with more of RealAg Radio right after this. Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola. It's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today.
I'm Lindsay Smith, host of The Agronomist, and I want to thank you for tuning in for over 200 episodes of our beloved little program. Join me Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for our live and interactive agronomy Q&A. Each week, our guest panel will handle some of your toughest agronomic questions live, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and RealAgriculture.com. Tune in Monday nights or go to RealAgriculture.com/agronomist and sign up for our email notifications and don't miss an episode.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Let's get to some of your feedback quickly here before we have to wrap up today's program. I got a text here from a listener, Tyler, who says, hey, thanks, Shaun, for continuing to provide the industry with a wide variety of information. Really enjoyed the chat you had with Trent Clarenbach. Deep insights like that are great. Keep it up. Well, I appreciate that text, Tyler. Also, we got Brian, who texts us on the RealAg feedback line at 855-776-6147. He says, hello, RealAg. You wanted feedback? Here it is. Number one, I like the quick ag news spots. So Brian is a listener of the RealAg Radio podcast. We do the top ag news stories of the day. So if you have not been doing that, check out the RealAg Radio podcast. He says, I like the quick ag news spots, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, hard to find anywhere else. Number two, the budget. What an overblown waste. No reduction in regs, no reduction in taxes, no big ideas. This is not a generational budget. It's a teeny weeny little banker's budget. Also, I don't want to hear any more about the drought in Ontario. Yeah, well, it's been a tough year in Ontario for sure. Thanks a lot, Brian. I really do appreciate that. Indeed, got one here from Johnny, who says, hey, great show, and it's always great to hear politics and issues through an agricultural lens. When discussing issues in Canada, it always gets divided on the show as East versus West. We try not to do that, but a lot of times they break down that way. I've always found it interesting that Western Canada only seems to be the prairies, and Eastern Canada is only Ontario and Quebec. Maybe widening the lens might add some new insight to some of the discussions. Awesome show, and thanks again for all you do for ag. And Johnny is in Nova Scotia, so appreciate that, Johnny. That's right. There's lots happening in the Maritimes when it comes to agriculture. So do try to include some of those people in the Farmer Rapid Fire as well as some of the issues. But I appreciate the feedback indeed. And of course, as well, there's very diverse agriculture in British Columbia. And I think tomorrow on the show, we're going to hear some of the diversity as we've got Sukhpal Bal, who's a big cherry grower in the Okanagan Valley, is going to be on the Farmer Rapid Fire tomorrow. So looking forward to that. You can provide me your feedback as well. All you got to do is send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or you can call or text the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. This last week, as I said on a couple shows ago, we've been getting texts and calls and emails from BC to Nova Scotia to Georgia to Illinois and everywhere in between. And I really appreciate everybody providing the feedback and being part of this Real Ag community. Thanks so much, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with Real Ag Radio. We'll talk again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Welcome to the bonus here on Real Ag Radio and the Real Ag Radio podcast. I do appreciate you downloading or streaming this podcast. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, but we really do appreciate everything that you do to make us part of your day. Absolutely. A lot of options out there, and appreciate you choosing Real Ag as one of your information sources. So let's get to some of the top ag news stories of the day. Before we do that, though, thinking back to that conversation we had with Neil Townsend from GrainFox a little bit earlier on today's show, and looking at that January futures price for canola and soybeans. Soybeans up 10% over that time period. Canola up just over 2%. And again, it's a little bit of a reflection that what we've been seeing or hearing, I guess, is when we talk about some of these commodities and some of the profit concerns or lack thereof profit out in the marketplace, it's commodity market driven, that somehow the prices are underperforming. Now, you could argue that they are underperforming relative to the cost structure, but commodity prices are lower than they were, say, from some of the highs in the recent cycle. But the real focus, the real concern, the real area of attention that is needed is what is happening on the cost side of the equation. Now, that could be carrying costs when it comes to farm debt. It could be equipment prices. It could be fertilizer prices gets a lot of attention. Seed prices are always going to get a lot of attention for farmers. It's that cost structure that has been sticky, and it refuses to realign to where the current markets are. And it's creating a lot of issues. And if you look at Western Canada, farm profitability, not like what we're seeing in the U.S. from a bad news perspective, but the yield, if you look at canola as an example, the yield on canola really was a bit of a savior. It put a lot of farmers in a position where they were maybe going to eke out a profit instead of trying to incur a loss because those yields were above some of the budget. So, yeah, farm management right now is a tough one, and I don't think that could be understated. I'm probably not giving that. I'm probably understating that is what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's get to some of the top ag news stories of the day here. Lots of stuff happening in the world of agriculture. The U.S. is raising its tariff rate quota for Argentine beef. The White House says the U.S. will lift its beef import quota from Argentina to 80,000 metric tons in an effort to ease record high retail prices. Press Secretary Anna Kelly says the move, short-term consumer relief paired with new rancher supports under USDA's cattle rebuild plan. That quota equals only about 4% of total U.S. beef imports, but has sparked pushback from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and farm state lawmakers worried it could pressure U.S. rancher margins. I have a greater concern, and that is policy scope creep here. So as a pushback to the Argentine beef import and the TRQs being increased, we're going to see a heightened push now for mandatory country of origin labeling. And that's a decent response when it comes to, say, Argentine beef. But what happens is that the North American trade gets thrown into that. And all we're going to be doing is adding more costs to the system potentially. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how everybody reacts. I heard on Laura Ingraham last night, President Trump did an interview. I didn't see it, but I had heard through a couple different text groups I'm in that the president mentioned again this price of beef being a big concern. So we'll see what policies are actually engaged here versus it just being talk. USDA has rolled out a 13-page strategy to revitalize the American cattle sector. The plan expands access to federal grazing lands, boosts funding for small processors, and tightens Product of USA labeling rules starting on January 1st, 2026. Remember, that Product of USA label is one of the most restrictive labels that exist in the world when it comes to beef trade. Officials say the national herd has shrunk to a 75-year low, and the goal is to stabilize production and price volatility without sacrificing consumer trust in U.S.-raised beef. Yeah. Again, you need a couple things for the cow herd for this supply issue to turn on its head. One is you need Mother Nature to cooperate. You got to have feed. You also have to have a positive financial situation, which we have right now. So there's financial incentives for people to be in the beef industry, but there are some barriers. It's a slow turn, right? It is, being a rancher is not like easy, quick money. Okay. It is not fast money. And that prevents a lot of people that have got out of it. It's hard to get back into it. You know, just because you're a farmer doesn't mean you're also a cattleman, right? So it's a different set of skills. And so this is hard. It is really hard. And the cattle cycle is long. When we look at pork and chicken, substantially lower, or you can increase the herd of chickens quite rapidly in a short period of time. You cannot do that with beef. You can't do it with beef. So fixing this in short order does present some challenges. I am curious, though. do we see a way? So maybe, how committed is the White House to trying to lower beef prices for the consumer? Do we see a real charge when it comes to, like, one way to do that, I'm not supporting this because I think it's kind of gross, is synthetic meat. Do we have lab-grown meat as a way to increase supply to bring some of those prices down? That would be immensely working against the rancher in the long term. If that now, they haven't said that, but I'm wondering if that's where things go next in this conversation. Something to look out for. Prime Minister Mark Carney has set a goal to double Canada's exports to markets beyond the United States by 2035, adding some $300 billion Canadian in new trade. Carney calls the plan a generational investment to cut reliance on America amid Trump-era tariffs on auto, steels, and lumber. Ottawa will push fresh deals with Indonesia, Germany, and the UAE while fast-tracking project approvals for critical minerals and infrastructure. Yeah, and I was talking on RFD TV this morning about, when you look, Canadian farmers are the most concerned about trade with China, India, and the United States. That makes sense. Where they see the biggest opportunity going forward is in the European Union, Indonesia, Mexico, and Japan. The problem is, though, those markets, if we were to fulfill them to the best that we possibly could from an ag trade perspective, those numbers don't even add up close to what we're trying to replace when it comes to the concerned areas of the U.S. Well, it wouldn't add up to the U.S. for sure, but what about China and India, which are large purchasers as well, but not consistent, as we talked with Neil Townsend of GrainFox earlier. Back onto this Argentine beef deal. The American Farm Bureau and National Cattlemen's Beef Association say the expanded Argentine beef quota could undercut U.S. ranchers already facing high feed and interest costs. Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota urged the White House to reverse course, warning that this isn't the way to help consumers or the cattle country. USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins maintains the impact will be minimal. Reality? Probably Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Agriculture, is correct. We're not talking about a lot, and we're talking about trim. We're talking about ground beef. We are not talking about ribeyes and tomahawks here. But it's getting the reaction probably that it deserves, though, at the same time, because of the America First and the MAGA push for America First. It's not this whole idea of increasing the TRQ for Argentine beef is not consistent. And why Argentina? That's the other one. Why Argentina? I think it has a lot of people kind of scratching their heads a little bit. A new EconoFact report from the University of Wisconsin warns the U.S. farm sector faces mounting stress from tariffs, labor shortages, and record debt. Farm borrowings are expected to top $386 billion this year, the highest on record, while interest expenses have jumped 18% since 2023. Analyst Menzie Chin says trade friction and tight visa rules are leaving producers with slim or negative margins despite flat commodity prices. And the labor component of agriculture, this is a real bind, as there's already a shortage, and some of the things that have happened with deportations have also impacted some of the supply of some of that workforce for sure. But farm profitability, it is a bigger issue in the U.S. compared to Canada. There is differences there. There is concern about profitability in Canada, but we're not seeing the losses per acre, for example, in Canada that we are seeing in the U.S., especially as you get into the deep south with rice and cotton and crops like sorghum, which you've heard me talk about before. Global crude oil jumped more than 5% after Washington sanctioned Russian energy giants Rosneft and Lukoil. Brent crude climbed above $65 a barrel as markets weighed possible supply shocks and higher fuel costs for farmers. Analysts say the move adds fresh uncertainty for input prices such as harvest and fall fertilizer shipping peak across North America. Tyson says record cattle costs, lowest herd in decades, sank its beef unit into a loss for the year of 2025. Management is leaning on cheaper feed and stronger chicken demand while watching for herd rebuild signs, useful barometer for packer margins and retail beef prices. Here's the thing about this whole, we're going to fix the beef price. And what we saw last Friday is where President Trump went after, basically we got to look at the packers. The packers and then the consolidation, the packing space is the reason why consumer beef prices are so high. Well, if that's the case, that consolidation is also benefiting the rancher, as none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. Do you think packers want to pay more for beef than they have to? Of course not. Now, if the question was consolidation was having an impact on what the ranchers actually getting paid, and this was a big issue during COVID, where packer margins were vast and wide, producers were losing money. This was a kind of a more timely sort of investigation by the Justice Department. I don't want to sound like a packer apologizer, but the Packers are the one losing money right now. So if they're colluding, they're really stupidly colluding, in the sense it's not providing the outcome that you would collude in the first place. I really have questions about a lot of this. The Packer margin is definitely in the negative, but it definitely, when we're talking about antitrust laws and we're talking about, hey, the big problem is the big bad corporations, that sells. And that's why the White House is pursuing this angle for sure. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the administration is working on steps to lower coffee and banana prices, flagging relief on some imported staples for grocers and food service. Any move here flows straight into cost of goods sold and the CPI food basket. The Fed is split on a December rate cut. Remember, the government shutdown potentially ends today, or tonight, I should say. But a divided Fed over December cut keeps borrowing costs for operating lines, land, notes, and equipment in flux. Carry costs and interest expense remain front of mind for farms and ag retail. We've been several weeks, over a month, without some of the data that the Fed would rely on. And so therefore, some people wonder if we're going to see maybe hardened positions in terms of where people were with the last Fed meeting. What's really changed? We don't have a lot of new information out there besides some of the private data that is available. Grain markets are pausing for breath as traders consider both the possible end of the U.S. government shutdown and persistent weak buying from China. We talked about this with Neil Townsend earlier on the show. Although Washington has touted a renewed commitment from Beijing to buy large volumes of American agricultural goods, verdicts from the field suggest little follow-through so far, according to Bloomberg. And, why it matters for Canada U.S. agriculture. U.S. grain exports are a key competitor for Canadian crops, especially wheat, canola, and barley. A slowdown in U.S. export momentum could affect global grain flows, but also signal tighter competition or pressure for Canadian exporters looking for alternative markets. This is the sort of the problem here. We've got supply. We're looking for consistent markets. And I say we, I mean North America, maybe going about it a little bit differently between the Canada and the U.S., but the same goal at the end of the day, increase exports. That brings more money back to the farm gate. But the demand equation now all of a sudden seems to be something that a lot of people are kind of wondering and asking about. There was a report this morning on RFD TV about how China really has a surplus of beans, which really creates a whole bunch of confusion in terms of why would they need to buy all these U.S. beans that they've been promising. This is a very volatile situation. If we look at the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index, we had a very high rating. I think it was like a 135 out of 200 in terms of the direction of the market. Farmers saying right now is a good time to hold. Farmers think the market's going to go higher. We will have to wait and see if all that translates into the favor of the farmer. Mexico has imposed heavy tariffs on sugar to protect local industry. Mexico is imposing tariffs of up to 210% on sugar imports from countries with which it doesn't have a free trade agreement. This includes major players like Brazil. The move is framed as protecting jobs and production inside Mexico's sugar sector. This story, according to Farm Progress. Why it matters, I think while it is somewhat an indirect link, the shift in Mexico's import tariff regime has a ripple effects for North American supply chains. Think about sugar, sweeteners, feedstocks. It also signals tightening trade policies in the Americas, which could influence how U.S. and Canadian exporters view Mexico as a trade market or partner. Again, I take this a little bit as a little bit of a fortressing. This is in this. Listen, if you want to do business with us, you got to have a trade deal. And that's kind of what Mexico's saying here, trying to protect its domestic industry. But at the same time, I wonder how much this also has a little bit to do with some of the negotiations with the U.S. and some of that sugar coming through Mexico into the U.S. I have to look at some of those numbers and how much sugar is coming into the U.S. from Mexico. But I just kind of wonder at these times, this seems to always be a factor. It just seems to be a factor. So something we'll definitely be paying attention to Indeed. Now, tomorrow's show, the Farmer Rapid Fire, we got farmers from across the country. Looking forward to doing that. Obviously brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And we will have a Real Ag Issues panel on Friday. Tyler McCann of Cappy, myself, Kelvin Hepner, and Lindsay Smith will be here to break down the biggest issues of the week. If you get a chance, check out the webinar that Real Agriculture and Cappy is hosting today here Wednesday. We did it. And it was really good, covering some of the impacts, what was in the budget of 2025, what wasn't, and some of the impacts on the industry of agriculture in the country. There is so much happening right now in our world of agriculture. This is like it's a big black hole. That's exactly what it is. It is a gaping, cavernous hole where we just continue more things to happen, shoving more in there. It's like the closet in the basement, right? Where it's just, let's keep on putting stuff in there. We just keep on doing that with news. It's just more and more. We can fit more in there. More's got to happen. More. It's just over and over and over again. We're trying to bring it all, as much as it to you as we possibly can. Thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected. Hope you enjoyed the bonus segment, and we'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.